me. If you're not watching it, youtube.com/at All Things MSP, you don't realize that I have my reactions on so I can make confetti fall from the sky. You just got me yelling in your ear. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin. I'm the host of the All Things MSP podcast. With me always is my good friend, podcast producer extraordinaire, Mr. Eric Anthony. And we're here celebrating.
Yeah, and I'm going to add my confetti in post.
All right, fine. Be that way. We're celebrating today. It's our 100th anniversary. We've done 100 of these, which is more than 2 years worth of podcasts because we basically record these once a week. I love every one of you, and thank you so much for being a part of this community and listening to us and the feedback and reaching out. I know Eric is absolutely tired of my ish at this point, but I love the fact that he lets me come on here and do a show like this for all of you, the community. And yeah, I can't express how awesome this is to get to like 100. I got to admit, man, like when I had my own podcast like years ago, like I got to episode 12 and I was like, done.
Yeah, I had high hopes for this, and it's really, I think one of the keys is to have a partner, because it's too easy when you're by yourself to just say that, I'm going to skip this week. Yeah. Right. And we haven't done that. Like, we have not skipped a week. No. And it's amazing that we've gotten to 100. Now, in terms of me being tired of you, it's the contrast that makes it work. So,
yeah. And what's funny is, like, when we started this, I think we had like maybe 4,000 members in the All Things MSP group. We're over 6,000 members now in the All Things MSP group and growing at an absolute pace. And I love it. And I got a lot of friends in there. A lot, there's a lot of you I don't know. I would love to meet you. If you're listening to this and you're hearing this show, like, send me a DM, like, message me on Facebook. I weirdly still use it. I'm not all, forget all the politics or whatever it is. Message me on Facebook or find me on LinkedIn. Doesn't Microsoft own LinkedIn? It's not any better. Find me on LinkedIn, like, message me. I want to know what you like. I want to know what you're listening to, like what episodes you like, things like that. Today is a clip show, though, right? We're doing a clip show of the best of the last 100, I think is what Eric told me to say.
Well, and I had to narrow it down, right? So not everybody made it into the clip show, obviously, because then it would be, even if we gave everybody a minute, it would be 100 minutes long, and that's too long for a podcast.
Even I don't want that.
So what I did, and truth in advertising, right? I used AI to find interesting clips in some of the podcasts that I think we had more fun with. And we hope you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by MoveBot. Makes cloud migrations effortless for MSPs. Whether it's a small client or a large enterprise, MoveBot provides fast, secure, and seamless data migrations. With no hidden fees and unmatched scalability, MoveBot is the tool MSPs trust for their cloud projects. Visit atmsp.link/MoveBot to learn more and get started today. Add DMARC management and monitoring to your MSP services with Easy DMARC. Protect your clients from phishing, spoofing, and impersonation while boosting their trust in your solutions. Easy DMARC makes email security simple, effective, and hassle-free. Visit atmsp.link/Easy DMARC to learn more and start offering DMARC as a service today.
Tell me we're recording, because I want to make sure this is going out there.
We're recording.
Welcome, everyone, to the All Things MSP podcast. I'm your host, Justin Esgar. With me is the original OG host, Eric Anthony. We're talking about getting drunk and technology. Welcome to our show. I'm really good at that, right?
It's going to be rough. We literally decided to record this before we really got started, because the only way to get started was to actually start.
Don't make a decision now, because right now it's called the Don't Listen to This podcast. But we also have the My Life's a Mess Right Now podcast. My kid is sick. Why are we doing this podcast? And Don't Start a Podcast. All of these are legit names that we came up with 7.5 minutes ago. Today, we are talking about
origin stories.
We're going to talk a little bit about where we came from, how we got here. When did I get bit by a spider and become Spider-Man? So sit down, buckle up, throw on those headphones, plug them in, listen up.
going forward, we're going to be talking about stuff that really matters to you as an MSP, different topics, different points of view from different pieces of the channel, right? And we really thought that you guys deserve to know.
Everyone always asks me the question like, do you think IT service providers are going to survive? And I'm like, yeah, if they remember their core value. The core value is helping small, mid-sized organizations and customers with their technology needs. Right. That's the core value right there. It's been a long time since I've been jazzed about a piece of tech and also had the data tell me that it's a real thing. Like, right. Because I mean, look, we carcasses of bad ideas over the last few years. Remember big data? How about we talk about the metaverse? Like, there's so many things that were like the next big thing, and they had no data of what's going on. ChatGPT just celebrated 6 months in the marketplace, and it was the fastest adopting consumer technology of all time. Like, yeah, that should tell you what you need to know, that there's something here.
I think that there's so much to cover here, and I know for a short podcast we're going to do, let's try to keep it towards. Let's talk about ChatGPT. I really like what's the Midjourney. That's always a fun one if you're doing art. But let's just talk about ChatGPT specifically and how it works for MSPs. I'm just going to start this off with, I see a lot of my friends using ChatGPT, in my opinion, the wrong way, right? A lot of them are using it for social creation. They're trying to get ChatGPT to create content for their blogs, as opposed to all of us paying for syndicated content or even writing our own content, right? So that's number one. I'll talk about that. And the second thing is how ChatGPT should and should not be used as your tier 0, tier 1 support within your organization. So let's talk about social for the first part, because I know you, and I know I can see it in your eyes. For anyone who's listening, I can see it deep into Dave's eyes here, that as soon as I said ChatGPT for social, his eyes rolled to the back of his head, right?
Well, because it's like I kind of laugh and go, really, everybody? I mean, so I like to sort of boil it down conceptually into where I think these things. I think ChatGPT is a fantastic high school writer. Like, it's an infinite capacity high school writer. Yeah. And do you really want just some high school kid writing all your social stuff? Because that's what you're saying. I use ChatGPT every single day in the creation of my show. I do not mind telling people that I do that. Let me give you some hints, but I would never have it replace my voice, because it's not good at that. It's not necessarily great at advanced tone, at creativity, but it is an incredible partner. And thematically, I'm going to bring this up a bunch of different times. AI is not going to replace your job. Someone who knows AI will replace your job.
When was the last time I fixed my Wi-Fi? We had an electrical storm that came through. It was, I guess, not Wi-Fi. It was the ISP. We had an electrical storm come through. But I'm sure they loved me, because when I opened up the ticket, or opened up the support ticket, I had trace routes, I had drop packets, I had everything, because I knew that they weren't going to come out and fix it. And it was all dropping from them.
And we've talked a little bit about how it, creates a more secure environment. What does the management piece look like?
It starts off with some of the things we've already alluded to, right? So we talked about the employee lifecycle journey. So that's something that today is a very manual process, and things that I'm often missing pieces along the way. So we help complete that picture. But it's also things like, as we talk about, structuring application reviews into your QBRs, understanding the why behind applications, not just the what is being used, helping to identify which applications should be managed by the MSP versus which are left to be client managed. So it's helping to prioritize and drive those conversations, as well as help to introduce a conversation around application license control and cost control. And so we think first about, getting that handle on the applications, doing that application stack alignment, what is managed by us versus what is managed by the client, and then helping build into things that we're doing today, like in that compliance journey. Those are all the kinds of things that play into the management story.
Now, remember, we've been talking about this fact now for a couple of episodes, that our friend Dave Sobel said that like 85% of MSPs do, what was it? Or like sub $500,000. They're like 1 or 2 person shops. Why would a company that's that small really need a PSA? Because obviously I think the bigger ones are all using something already, right? A lot of the bigger companies are, and also on the same token, I'm starting to see a big shift, at least in the Apple MSP side, where they're all deciding to pick up on a PSA now. Like it seems to be the new buzzword. We're always like 5 years behind on the stuff that the PC MSPs are doing, even though we're using more and better technology. But the fact that I'm seeing a lot more Apple consultants moving to a PSA also. So why should these smaller companies and Apple consultants and such move to a PSA? And what's the benefit in a small company using it?
Yeah, I mean, for small companies, there's a couple of main reasons. One of them is that you use the tool. The main reason to use the tool is to get full transparency and visibility over your business operations. So you can easily tell how profitable XYZ customer is. On the extreme side, you can then use that data and cut a customer if they're not profitable and they're not ever going to become profitable. And you can put more effort into your guys that are profitable to help them grow and make them an even more profitable customer. And it's very difficult to do that if you don't have all of that information in one system. I would suggest that if you didn't have a PSA, you can get that same data if you're going to put a lot of time and effort into building, I don't know, Power BI metrics, or even just getting all the data out, putting it in a spreadsheet and then pulling it all apart. Or you might think that you can just get there with gut instinct and having a feel for it. But I think after a few years, if you still haven't grown and you're trying to, then it probably does come down to, well, my data's not right. I need to get this all in one place so I can actually tell what's going on, where I'm making money. That's kind of the main reason, really, that people would use a PSA, or at least on the kind of small end. Also, it is just good to get ahead of the game.
As humans, we eat with our eyes. We judge books by the cover. We're told not to. We're literally told not to. And we still do. And even if, and I'm not to get political here, but even if people are like, ooh, I don't see color, I'm sorry to tell you, your brain sure does. And your brain sure tells you what you see. And so while I appreciate the sentiment, our job, our brain's job with what we see is to make immediate judgments on it. Is it safe? Do we like it? Do we want to learn more about it? Do we want to run away from it? Do we want to put it in our mouth? All of those things are happening. And the president of Colombia, Manoush Shafiq, she said several years ago, she said, in the past, jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains. And in the future, they'll be about heart. Well, we're in the future now. We are fast track. That quote was said in 2017. Fast track, whatever bad math is, 7 years. Oh yeah, whatever. Yeah. We're now in the future, and Vim lives in that future. We live in the heart of business, the business of heart now. And so I know that I tend to lose male-dominated industries, male-dominated audiences when I start talking about heart, but I'm going to tell you, the males who stick with me, or anyone who stick with me, they're the ones who benefit. So don't tune out just because I'm speaking heart-centric things and I'm talking about emotions in business. Like, trust me, this is where the future of business is going. This is what your consumers and your community actually want from you in order to make buying decisions. And so if you care about why consumers are deciding to purchase from you or your competition, stick with me. So yeah, that's the whole goal of branding. The whole point, if I were to summarize it, is that you could be doing anything, but you're choosing to do what you're doing. And so why? And how do you bleed that why and that purpose and that depth into what your community and your consumers see before and during making buying decisions with you? So if I'm being marketed to by Justin and his marketing is really loud and he shows up on these reels and he's screaming at me like, you need this for your MSP, right? And I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, he gets it. Like, I've been thinking that, but no one else is saying that. You're going to be naturally more drawn to that energy, to that voice, to the intention, to the personality of the brand. Again, that intentionality of the brand. But if I see that same video and I'm like, woo, that guy's a lot, and I go scroll past real quick and I land on Eric, who's like, let me educate you on exactly what 365's newest feature entails. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm into this, right? Look at everything about even me gets to change a little bit. the tone of my voice, the softness of voice, the cadence of my voice. When I'm Eric versus when I'm being Justin, that all changes. And that is part of your brand. I love that Justin's so offended by this.
You're not catching this. Go to youtube.com/@allthingsmsp and see the faces I'm currently making at my friend Steph.
You started it.
Your life hack of saying you can have any snack you want after you eat 7 fruits and veggies. Tell me how you Jedi mind tricked your kids into actually listening to you about it. Because if I say to my kid, you can have a snack, fruit or veggie, the amount, I mean, granted he's 8, the amount of crap I get in return for that. What am I doing wrong as a parent here?
No, it felt like a stroke of genius, frankly, when it hit. And what would happen is I'd be playing volleyball. We had a sand volleyball court in our yard. And the kids would always be like, can I have a brownie? Can I have a brownie? And I was like, and I explained that they were turning me into a nag because I was the one that had to constantly be saying no. And I didn't want to be the one that was constantly saying no. So I said, I want to basically, like in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to empower them to be able to say yes. And I said, like, I don't want to be the bad guy all the time. That doesn't feel good. So, but the reason I don't let you have 7 brownies is because that's too much. It's not good for you. So as long as there's a balance, we're at a party, it's a treat. I think a good rule is if you have 7 fruits or veggies, and my son loved carrots. So if you have 7 carrots, you don't even have to ask me for the brownie.
If your core values aren't your starting point, you can create this vision that actually conflicts with your core values, and it just makes it not realistic.
One thing we find interesting is many people will pick aspirational core values and not actual core values of how their actual behavior is. And a part of that, you'll see on Glassdoor, someone will point out that their culture is not what they claim their core value to be. And that is where there's that disconnect. And those are the companies that don't feel good to work for, right? You go working for a company thinking that it's going to feel a certain way. And when the behaviors don't match what you're claiming your core value is, that's what feels gross. And we have you rate your contacts on all of these different, across the spectrum of your core values of who supports you in that. They don't have to have that same core value as you, but who helps you be that better version of you. And it's interesting to think about it that way and to think about your company that way. Does the company round out being able to live by your core values? And does the culture feel that?
Well, I think one of the things that's unique about this book is we give you practical activities and exercises to kind of apply it. And our hope would be that and I view this as a parent, right? I've got a 19-year-old son, right, who's trying to figure out what to do with his life. He's trying to figure out how to lead himself, right? And my hope would be that people try to have conscious thought about how to improve themselves, right? What's going to differentiate you? What is going to differentiate you is your your character skills, right? And that's what this book is about, right? You have to have the idea of paying attention to improving your character skills, your softer skills. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be successful in life, you need to start to differentiate, right? And our hope is that you take this book, right, that you guys are showing, and it makes you think about some of the things that you can do to help differentiate yourselves from other people and start to level up. So in our opinion, it's starting to apply, whether it's what we state in the book or just to get you to think about some of the ideas that we state in the book and apply it to your own world.
A lot of this is because of the pandemic, that like now that everybody's working from home and like the way things have changed, are we seeing a big uptick in a lack of productivity due to the talking about work thing that we just mentioned because of that?
Yeah, so it was accelerated through the pandemic, but our journey started pre-pandemic when we were studying this whole notion that productivity was on the rise for knowledge workers throughout the 20th and 21st century, and then peaked in 2008, and then held at that level. And so pre-pandemic, a lot of the talk track was around open office concepts. It was around the onset of the iPhone. And then productivity actually started to decline. And the intersection of productivity declining, people were actually working more and they were burnt out at record levels. So I'm going, so now productivity is actually going down. I was worried about it plateauing. Now it's going the other way, but people are working more hours. What's going on here? And so that was what we started to solve prior to that, but it was accelerated beyond that.
But the reason the Pumpkin Plan is such a good fit for MSPs is because MSP is an entrepreneurial business that's usually bootstrapped. It's services based. And the whole idea behind the Pumpkin Plan is that in order to really succeed as an entrepreneur, you need to focus and figure out what you're best at, figure out who your best clients are and how you do what you're best at for your best clients. We call that the seed, right? Second step is to weed. That means you get rid of the clients that are not a good fit. The ones that are just, we call them cheap pain in the ass clients, but once you get to a certain level of maturity, it goes beyond the ones that are cheap and a pain in the ass and the ones that really just don't fit your sweet spot. They really aren't the right clients for you. Second half of weeding is just avoiding shiny objects. A lot of MSP owners will jump at any opportunity that comes at them.
The key reasons why we are so adamant that you have to have a budget. Because if you have a budget and you predict exactly what your revenue should be each month and exactly what your expenses should be, and that you should have exactly this much profit if you hit the numbers, every month you can go down that list and you go, whoa, that number's off. What happened? I mean, we found a company that was paying a vendor a couple of $1,000s a month for 2 years that they had no idea that they were paying. I mean, and when you go through and you do what we call a zero-based budget, where you start with zero at every category on your P&L, and you go, okay, do I need this? If I need it, is there some way to get it for free? If I can't get it for free, can I get it for less? When you go through and you do that, every dollar you discover goes right to the bottom line.
Yeah.
It's not a percentage. The whole dollar goes right there in your pocket. And I have, in doing a zero-based budget with companies that have never done it and never analyzed their expenses, we have found as much as 10, 12%, which for some companies is their entire profit.
It's revenue, right? All revenue is good revenue, and that's a big lie. Stop nodding your head.
For those who are listening and not watching on youtube.com/all things MSP, as Dave is saying this, I'm turning bright red and waving my hands up in the air because I am 100% guilty of all of this.
Well, I mean, everything Sean and I wrote is from experience, right? You see, 3/4 of the things that we're telling people to do are things we got wrong before we got them right. Exactly. I could tell you horror stories all day long about things we took on that we shouldn't have taken on, and the chaos that ensued and how it slowed our company down and kept us from really meeting our full potential faster. So anyway, seed, right? Figure out what you're best at, who you're best at doing it for. Weed, get rid of bad clients, avoid shiny objects, and feed. And that involves creating processes for your MSP and marketing around your strengths. So in a nutshell, that's the Pumpkin Plan for MSPs.
But there's other elements from the mental perspective, which is where a coach can assist. Okay, getting to those decisions. Okay, being able to clear your mindset. Okay, no anxiety, no imposter syndrome. Okay, great. Where are we? Okay, here, this is a specific goal. My job isn't to solve your problem. My job is to assist you and guide you towards that solution so that you solve it yourself. It's one of those things that we're open to everything. We can't be attached to our specific feelings or our will or desire to fix an issue. So a lot of times when you're focusing your specific goal, like even me as an athlete, I was focused on here. I wasn't really open to changing much because I knew that I have this skill, I can get here. But my coach would say, okay, look, be open to modifying your technique. Be open to this element. Be open to, okay, you're a little bit slower and this element of your approach, be open to trying this over here, pick up speed so it could benefit you back into here.
All right, before we get into the conversation about AI Iron Man Pirate, for those who don't know you at home, because I've known you for many, many years now, why don't you give everybody like a 2-minute spiel about who you are, what you do, and real quick, what's the penguin's name?
And one of the best things I think I've ever heard out of all of this AI stuff, by the way, is how you describe that things like ChatGPT are a C+ student, and that's how you should treat it. Because that simple statement means so much in terms of how you should approach AI.
So this isn't like a search engine where you type in a few keywords and you get the answer back. This is a process, and you have to be willing to go beyond your initial prompt. Your initial prompt, oh, please do this for me, and it will give you something back. Mm. And then you have to say things like, what did you miss? Like, you would never say that to a person, but the fact is that chatbots are assistants who in many ways, they're great, right? They know vast amounts of stuff. They're completely imperturbable. You can yell at them. They won't take offense, but I don't really recommend it. It's not a good habit to get into. They are infinitely patient. That's all good. On the other hand, they're a C+ student. They're completely reactive. They'll never do any thinking, beyond exactly what you've asked for.
Basically,
they tend to get things wrong.
Basically, they're my 9-year-old son is what you're getting.
Precisely. Yeah. Your 9-year-old son, if he knew everything.
He thinks he does. Yeah.
So be like a judge, be like a biz dev guy, be like a marketing person, and then respond as that person would have. And that's really powerful. So again, you're working with someone and you can make the AI pretend to be that person.
So there's limitations on that also, right? Because if you say, hey, be an MSP, it not going to happen. But to a degree, you could train it though. You could explain what it is and train it to do something.
Right. No, it actually might, because there's a fair amount written in that. Yeah. So the other thing you got to keep in mind, everything you get out of an AI is statistically probable, right? That's kind of the definition of what it's doing. It's right. It's doing this prediction concept where it's basically predicting the next thing all the time. And so it's all about statistics. And so it's not going to go for wild flights of fancy. It's going to give you the baseline general consensus. Right. And so the more content that it's had to be, particularly the chatbots, it's had to train on, the better it's going to be at providing sort of the general, all MSPs say this.
Right.
That's why, so in that regard, yes.
Day one using chat, if you've never used ChatGPT and you're on day one, you're not going to get as good answers as someone who's been using it for months. Because for me, it took me a while to realize that I should be stacking my answers, which now is actually a global setting within OpenAI.
Yeah. I wrote a book, right? And in that book, I actually have a chapter in which it is entitled, I hope, or I want you. I think it says, I want you to use ChatGPT to write your next contract because I have kids in college and I need the money. That's actually the name of the chapter. So, AI is an interesting technology that gives you good ideas, right? It gives you a great place to start, but it's not ready to start writing out full-length contracts and addressing the realities of the MSP industry. Yeah. Not even close.
And if you go back to an episode where we had Adam Ang's on, Adam very definitively puts it out there as ChatGPT is a C+ student, which for me, right. Which sucks for me because I was a D student, so ChatGPT wins. But Brad, you're an official
slightly
lawyer.
Above where you
went to law school. Yeah. You have the Esquire at the end of your name. You don't just fake it like some people was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
And that's actually where a lot of MSPs go off the rails from a contract perspective. A contract historically has always been thought of as a document that protects you from the legal things, right? The so-called legal. Legal, that's a fancy way of saying if we screw up, are we protected? That's legal. That's what we have a contract for. But in this industry, as in many, but this specific industry, the MSP industry, legal is not as relevant on a day-to-day basis. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you don't live in a world of legal. You don't live in a world where you're constantly writing checks and constantly being sued. And then you say, well, how much is my liability here? It's important to have it, but that's not where you live. Where you live or MSPs live is in a world of reality, right? Reality-based contracting is how I want people to start thinking about their contracts. Yes, it's important to talk about legal, but how about the realities that pop up on a day-to-day basis? Okay, day-to-day basis. You're not in court. You're not being sued. You're not writing a check, but you have an issue, right? An issue. Your client doesn't listen to you, and then the thing that you said was going to happen happens, and they blame you. We're not in court, right? We're not being sued, but now we're going to spend money on attorneys to figure out who's right. The MSP that didn't do something because they recommended it and they were rejected, or the customer who says, well, I didn't know what the heck I was rejecting. Yeah. Right? I didn't know. You're asking me, the customer, if I want this solution? Does a surgeon ask the patient, should I cut in over here or over here? Right? The surgeon does it. Now what? Now we're talking, right? This is reality. And this is the type of reality that contracts have to talk about. And there are dozens of these realities. And it is sort of my mantra to tell everybody that, yeah, legal's important and limitation of liability. I get it. But where you really want to think about, what you really want to focus in on is the reality that you face. And that's what keeps you up at night. And that's what you need to address.
Dude, that was awesome. What a great compilation of clips you had. I think the AI did its job, which means from now on, it's going to be me, you, and our podcast producer, Mr. AI.
No, I will not hand over the day-to-day to the AI. But, just to give a shout out to Opus Clips, they do a pretty decent job of finding the interesting pieces of a video and doing its magic to it. Because in case you don't know, that's what we use a lot of times for our shorts, right? Yeah. And I feel like it does a pretty good job for the shorts. And I was like, we really need to do kind of a best of episode for the 100th. And it worked out really well, I think.
No, I think it came out great. I think everyone, if you're listening and you made it this far, I think you loved it too. You did. Tell us that you loved it. Leave us a comment at facebook.com/group/allthingsmsp. You're probably in there anyway. Check us out, youtube.com/allthingsmsp. Leave us a review on your favorite podcasting tools. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We'll see you again 100 episodes from now. That's right. We're in it for the long haul. I'm going to make Eric do this. He's going to be so mad, but the next 100 episodes are just going to be that much better.
I'm going to be dead by then.
No. We'll try again. What's my line? Oh, we'll do better next time. That's it for us. That's Eric. I'm Justin. Bye.
Thank you for listening or watching the All Things MSP podcast. If you liked this episode, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and consider subscribing to catch all our weekly episodes. And from your host extraordinaire, Justin Esgar, and myself, Eric Anthony, your humble producer and All Things MSP founder, thank you very much for spending your time with us. If you are not aware, All Things MSP started as a Facebook group and now supports over 6,000 members. We also have a LinkedIn page for those of you who don't do Facebook, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for even more content. A special thank you to our elite sponsor, CoreView, helping you manage your Microsoft 365 tenants instead of them managing you. Thank you to our premier sponsors, EasyDmark, Helped, Gozinta, MoveBot, and SuperOps. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors. Without sponsors, we could not do what we do for the MSP community. Please consider checking them out. The All Things MSP podcast is a BizPow LLC production. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of any employer, vendor, sponsor, or random taxi driver in the Metro DC area. Be sure to join us next week for another exciting episode.